Yeah, chapters 3 and 4 of Signature in the Cell are my most detailed treatment answering that question. Maybe the best way to get into it is to distinguish a couple different kinds or definitions of information. There's a mathematical theory of information that was developed by the computer scientist and mathematician Claude Shannon, the MIT scientist in the late 1940s. And Shannon's idea, intuitively, was that information
we've had interviews where they've been in New York City. Welcome to the sirens. You know what I mean?
Welcome to the sirens. Shannon's idea was that information is related to the reduction of uncertainty. If something informs you of something, it's reducing your uncertainty about something. So if you have a coin and you flip it, when it comes up heads, you've reduced the uncertainty you had about whether it would be heads or tails. If you have a six-sided die, and it comes up a 3, you've reduced the uncertainty by quite a bit more, because there were 6 possibilities in the case of the die and only 2 possibilities in the case of the coin. And so, in addition to the intuitive connection between information and reduction of uncertainty, Shannon developed a way to quantify how much uncertainty was being reduced. And in effect, he showed that the more improbable more improbable an event is when it occurs, the more uncertainty is reduced. If you look at if you think of the die, you've reduced uncertainty to the tune of, you had 6 possibilities and now there's 1, so you've reduced more uncertainty in the case where the event that occurs is more improbable than in the case with the coin, where there were only 2 possibilities, and you have a higher probability of getting either the head or the tail than you do of getting any one of the 6 sides on the die. So you've reduced less uncertainty in the other case, so you've imparted less information. The more improbable, the more information you're imparting.
It's future looking in a way.
Right, and so this is a powerful intuition, and then he's able to quantify the amount of information that is being transmitted down a channel with he's got various formulae and things that are based on this basic intuition that there's an inverse relationship between improbability or there's an inverse relationship between probability and reduction of uncertainty and the transmission of information. Now, it turns out that Shannon, as powerful as that intuition was very explicit that he couldn't really distinguish a series of characters that were meaningful from a series of characters that were not. So he was actually able to measure the information carrying capacity without being able to measure whether that information transmitted was functional or not. So he's measuring the capacity, the carrying capacity, without measuring or determining whether the information had content, if it was actually meaningful or functional. And so there's another form of information that's more relevant to biology and more relevant to computer science and more relevant to human speech and communication, and that we call specified information. And a way to illustrate that I've used probably ad nauseum is just comparing a string of characters, 20 or so letters long, with a line of poetry, time and tide wait for no man. The one, because there's no discernible English words or any other words in the sequence, has Shannon information. It's an improbable array, but it's not the character's not arranged or specified in their arrangement so as to perform a communication function. And so that's a really crucial distinction, because the kind of information that we have in DNA is actually the specified kind of information. The arrangement of the genetic letters in the genetic text matters to the function of the gene, the stretch of DNA that is providing instructions for building the protein.
So a mind produces and understands
So point of all that is that there might be some mindless process that would produce a merely improbable sequence that did not have a specified arrangement of characters to perform a function. But in our experience, mind is the only known cause of specified information, at least specified information of a given amount. I mean, you might get lucky with a few a couple 2 or 3 word letters if you're pulling letters out of a Scrabble bag. But if you need a lot of information, it will always require mind. And then we have a probabilistic way of making those demarcations.